Okay, let's dive into something that isn't just a regulatory update, but a massive structural earthquake brewing right now in the UK's managed service provider, or MSP, sector.
Right.
If you are a business in the UK, you almost certainly rely on an MSP for, well, for everything from email to data backup. And now the government is about to drop a new mandate that will redefine who can stay in the game and who can't.
That's exactly right. For many years, the compromise of an MSP was viewed primarily as a commercial issue, for their specific clients. Now, thanks to a series of undeniable high-impact incidents, the risk inherent in that MSP supply chain is officially recognized as a national-level threat.
So it's been elevated.
Massively. The government is formalizing standards because, well, the stakes are just too high to leave to chance anymore.
Our mission today is to take a deep dive into the UK's Cybersecurity and Resilience Bill. This legislation is going to formally regulate somewhere between, 900 and 1,100 UK MSPs for the very first time. We need to dissect the three core mandatory obligations this introduces and, crucially, understand the massive competitive opportunity, the 100 million MSP opportunity, that is being created for early movers who build resilience now.
And here is the essential takeaway for you right at the start, whether you are relying on an MSP or you are one. This regulation creates an immediate and irrevocable divide in the market.
A clear line.
A very clear line. You are soon going to deal with MSPs who can demonstrate resilience and audit-ready compliance, and those who simply operate on, well, hope and legacy systems.
So let's start with the root cause. Why now? For years, MSPs held privileged, keys to the kingdom, access networks, backups, identities, sensitive data, yet they operated without mandatory standards. What incidents finally accelerated this decision?
The risk always existed in the background, but the government was really forced to act because of the sheer scale and visibility of recent breaches. These breaches prove MSP compromise could cripple national infrastructure. The risk is no longer hypothetical.
Give us the specifics on those high-stakes examples.
We saw two major undeniable examples just in 2024. First, the Ministry of Defense payroll breach.
Right.
Attackers were able to access sensitive military personnel data not by hitting the MOD directly, but by compromising an MSP in their supply chain.
So a backdoor.
A classic supply chain attack. That is a direct national security failure, right there.
That makes the vulnerability of the supply chain instantly clear.
Precisely. The second event was the Synnovis ransomware attack. This wasn't just a data theft. It was a physical operations crippler.
This was the one that hit the NHS.
It was. It resulted in more than 11,000 canceled NHS appointments, disrupting essential healthcare services, and carried an estimated economic impact of a staggering $32.7 million.
That's operational immediate damage.
That's right. When you measure the economic fallout in the tens of millions for a single incident, that's when government stops treating it as just a private sector problem.
Absolutely.
And the government's own economic modeling reinforces this decision, showing that a catastrophic cyber attack on national infrastructure could realistically add an enormous $30 billion to UK borrowing.
$30 billion.
When the risk hits the national balance sheet, regulation becomes inevitable.
So what this ultimately means is that the government has formally classified MSPs as critical connective digital infrastructure.
Correct. And that classification is the mechanism that formally brings them under the regulatory authority of the Information Commissioner's Office, or ICO, for the first time.
The ICO?
The ICO is now their primary regulator.
So let's define a scope. We're talking about roughly 12,214 UK MSPs expected to be included. If I am a service provider, what activities put me in scope?
The bill covers any core services where you have, hands-on access to a client's environment.
Yeah.
If you offer IT management, basic help desk services, cybersecurity services, or anything involving cloud, identity, or data access management.
So pretty much everyone.
If you are managing or securing client environments, you are almost certainly in scope. The net is cast very wide.
Okay, let's unpack the three core mandatory obligations MSPs are now facing. This is where operations fundamentally and legally change. What's the first major mandate?
The first, and I think the most difficult to meet without preparation, is mandatory incident reporting within 24 hours.
Okay.
If an MSP experiences a harmful cyber incident, they must notify the regulators, specifically the National Cybersecurity Center or NCSC, within 1 day. They then have 72 hours to provide a complete, detailed report.
Wait, 24 hours just to notify and then 72 for the full report. That is lightning fast, especially compared to the GDPR deadlines that many are used to.
It is, and it immediately removes the option to, quietly fix a breach and hope the client or regulator doesn't notice. Transparency is mandatory now.
That's a huge culture shift.
It is. Now imagine that 24-hour clock starting at 2 a.m. on a Sunday morning. If you don't have automated 24/7 monitoring, defined escalation playbooks, and systems that instantly compile an audit trail, you're not just scrambling to fix the issue, you are simultaneously performing legal triage under immense stress.
And the NCSC and ICO aren't just looking for an email saying, hey, we might have a problem. The 72-hour report must detail scope, impact, and response steps, which is impossible without robust pre-existing documentation.
Exactly. It's a requirement for regulatory documentation, not just technical recovery. If you don't have the proof ready, you are in breach of the reporting mandate. Simple as that.
That brings us to the second obligation, defining the baseline security posture they need to report on.
That's the minimum cybersecurity standards. While the final standards are still being consulted on, we expect them to map very closely to the UK's existing Cyber Essentials Plus framework for technical controls.
Okay, so a known quantity.
A known quantity, and also the internationally recognized ISO 27001 standard for security management processes.
Can you quickly break down the difference there for us?
Sure. Think of it this way. Cyber Essentials Plus is the foundational technical baseline. It makes sure you have your front door locked. ISO 27701 ensures you have the documented processes for how you lock the door, who has the key, how often you check the lock, and what happens if someone tries to pick it.
So one is the what and one is the how.
Precisely. And both are mandatory.
So what does the technical proof look like in practice?
It means proving you have documented access policies, regular vulnerability management programs, ongoing staff training, and the right baseline technical controls. This includes mandatory multi-factor authentication, MFA everywhere, endpoint detection and response, or EDR, on all devices, robust logging, and crucially, immutable backups.
It's a key detail. Immutable backups. Why is that specifically being mandated now?
Because the goal of this regulation is resilience against ransomware and supply chain attacks. Ransomware attacks frequently target backup systems to ensure the victim has no alternative but to pay.
They cut off your escape route.
Exactly. An immutable backup, meaning the data cannot be modified or deleted, even by an administrator, ensures that the MSP and its clients can recover without paying the ransom. It's a direct requirement aimed at neutralizing the most successful attack vector. And the key phrase here is really, if you can't prove it in a documented, auditable format, it doesn't count.
And the third obligation introduces the ultimate consequence, the stick of enforcement.
Yes. ICO audits, enforcement, and fines. MSPs now sit squarely under the ICO's authority. This means they are subject to scheduled and unscheduled audits, improvement notices if documentation or controls are found lacking, and of course, significant financial penalties for systemic noncompliance.
And for many smaller providers, this is the first time their internal operations and security controls will face legal scrutiny that can result in, well, massive financial
A
risk.
huge risk.
This regulatory pressure immediately brings us to a secondary market shift, that the bill is indirectly triggering a massive immediate increase in the demand for robust cyber insurance.
Right, and what's fascinating here is how the regulation creates a cascading requirement that flows right down to the smallest client.
A ripple effect.
A huge one. Currently, only about 45% of UK businesses even carry cyber insurance. And get this, only 7% have standalone cover. Now, regulated MSPs must meet specific insurer controls just to remain insurable themselves.
And this dramatically flips the script regarding the client's ability to get insured, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The compliant MSP becomes an indispensable partner. They are now a core dependency for their clients' ability to even obtain or maintain their own cyber insurance policy at a reasonable rate.
So your MSP's compliance directly affects your insurance premiums.
Directly. If your MSP can't demonstrate resilience and provide proof of the necessary controls, your client's underwriter will likely reject their application or massively hike the premium.
That's a huge commercial lever. So when an insurer looks at the MSP serving their client, what specific operational requirements are they increasingly demanding that a compliant MSP must be able to prove?
They're looking for auditable evidence of basic security hygiene and rapid response capability. And the list maps almost perfectly to the bill's requirements. MFA everywhere, EDR on all endpoints, those immutable backups we discussed, robust logging and correlation capabilities.
So they can see the whole story of an attack.
Exactly. They need to see that the MSP can connect different events into a single timeline. And they need detailed, documented incident response processes. MSPs who meet the bill's high standards become an essential risk mitigation partner for both the client and the insurer.
But compliance is inherently expensive. The source material notes the bill doesn't excuse smaller MSPs or provide long transition exceptions. If you lack the security documentation or 2047 incident visibility, compliance becomes an enormous struggle.
It does. Providers who don't have those measurable, audit-ready operational controls are facing a huge financial and logistical barrier. They will be chasing the requirement constantly, which directly leads us to the core commercial opportunity.
This is where it gets really interesting. If compliance is that difficult and expensive, won't the smallest MSPs just have to raise prices so dramatically that they are effectively priced out of the critical infrastructure market? Is that an intended consequence?
I'd say it is an inevitable market consequence. If you cannot meet the baseline standards set by the government, your risk profile is simply too high, and the market will not tolerate it. And that creates the three strategic advantages for those MSPs who prepare early and bake compliance into their operational foundation.
Let's break down those advantages.
First is client acquisition. As enforcement ramps up and the cost of non-compliance becomes clear, many non-compliant MSPs will have to raise prices dramatically, reduce their scope, or exit the market entirely. Their clients, especially those with their own regulatory requirements, will need to migrate rapidly to alternatives who can easily demonstrate resilience and compliance.
So the market effectively starts consolidating around the secure providers.
Yeah, exactly. Second is premium pricing justification. A compliant, audit-ready MSP gains an immediate, clear competitive moat.
Okay.
They transform the sales conversation. They can articulate their value by saying, you're not just paying for a better tool, you're paying for a secure, audited, government-recognized operational standard that directly reduces your risk and secures your insurance eligibility. That justification allows them to separate from low-cost competitors and justify premium pricing.
That transformation from a cost discussion to a risk management discussion is enormous. And the third advantage:
compliance-aligned security services. Now, while MSPs must be careful not to offer regulated advice or consulting, they can deliver the precise operational security outcomes and the necessary reporting that clients need to satisfy their own regulatory or insurance requirements.
They become a partner in compliance.
A trusted operational partner who handles the complexity of proof.
Let's shift to the operational execution piece. This all sounds fantastic on paper: premium pricing, better clients. But how does an MSP actually deliver this audit-ready security without suddenly having to hire a fleet of dedicated internal compliance officers?
That's the critical pivot. We transition from policy to process. The challenge isn't just detecting threats, it's providing a transparent, trustworthy, and audit-ready record that proves due diligence and compliance, removing all the guesswork.
The source material pointed toward a specific approach to solve this documentation crisis, using the example of Enhance.io leveraging Stellar Cyber's OpenXDR platform. How does that translate into compliance readiness for the average MSP?
It's all about creating a shared system of record that provides evidence automatically. An operational platform like that automatically logs every single detection, every response action, every alert, every enrichment, and every investigative step, attaching time-stamped activity trails to the whole sequence.
It's building the report as it goes.
It is. It provides that evidence-based reporting.
So instead of manually compiling logs from a dozen disparate systems after the fact, the system is compiling the story for them in real time.
Precisely. An MSP can then show an external auditor or a regulator precisely what they detected, when they detected it, how they responded, and the outcomes achieved. This directly aligns with the bill's demand for operational transparency and documented procedure.
I can see how that system alone relieves the pressure valve on the compliance team, especially when that 24-hour clock is ticking.
It's massive for meeting that deadline. When an incident occurs, the system provides a complete correlated incident timeline, instantly, showing all impacted assets and all response steps already taken. This dramatically reduces reporting friction, ensuring they can deliver regulator-ready documentation fast, easily meeting that 72-hour complete report deadline.
So they're prepared before the crisis hits.
They are.
And it solves the client confidence issue beautifully. The client who asks, "How do I know you're compliant?" gets a measurable answer.
Exactly. The MSP can provide proof through monthly security posture summaries, detailed threat detection and response reports, vulnerability reporting, and mapped evidence that their client can immediately use for their own auditors and insurers. Crucially, the system acts as that shared system of record, providing insurers with the necessary evidence of EDR, identity protection, continuous monitoring, and documented response steps, which can, in turn, help reduce the client's premiums.
So the MSP becomes a value driver, not just a necessary expense.
That's cool.
So what does this all mean? The Cybersecurity and Resilience Bill is clearly not a simple regulatory adjustment. It is defining the future operational standard for the UK channel.
It is defining two distinct categories. You have the MSPs trying to keep up, always firefighting, always explaining security caps, always defending price, and then you have those shaping the new high-resilience standard, the audit-ready, insurance-ready providers who are successfully winning high-value clients, who prioritize measurable operational resilience above everything else.
And the implication is clear. Regulation will only tighten from here. You have to build compliance into your operational DNA.
Correct. The market will reward those who view security not as a compliance checklist, but as a continuously provable operational outcome. MSPs who leverage technology to effortlessly meet insurance controls and provide audit-ready documentation will attract better clients and ultimately define the new benchmark of service.
This market realignment is the largest the MSP sector has seen in decades. So for you, the listener, whether you are in the UK or elsewhere and relying on any third-party provider, this raises a provocative thought. Consider whether you are currently relying on partners who have proactively invested to become audit-ready and fully resilient, or if you are unknowingly dealing with providers who are constantly chasing the next requirement. That difference between preparation and reaction is where your true security risk and your future financial liability ultimately lies.